Welcome back to the Flex Diet Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike T. Nelson. On this podcast, we talk about all things to increase muscle mass, increase performance, improve body composition, do all of it within a flexible framework without destroying your health. Today on the podcast, we've got my good friend, Dr. Krista Scott-Dixon, and we're talking about her brand new book, Applied Nutrition Coaching and Counseling, Theory into Practice, which is really, really good. It is a monster book that you will get a ton of information from, and wide-ranging discussion from things we think that are useful, the implications of AI, how to think better, different practical things that you can apply to help yourself and also help your clients, and much more. So I'd highly encourage you to check out her new book. You can find it at her website, KristaScottDixon.com. You can also find it in the link that we'll place down below. And I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. I've known Krista for many years now. I've crashed some impromptu potlucks when she was working at Precision Nutrition and been able to meet up with her a few times in person, and always enjoy our chats, and I always learn a ton of new stuff too. If you want more information from me, check out my newsletter. Go to MikeTNelson.com/newsletter. I'll send you a bunch of cool free stuff each day in your inbox and try to make them entertaining and also informational with things you can apply to increase your health, body composition, performance, all the stuff we talk about on the podcast. So without any further ado, here is Dr. Krista Scott-Dixon. My wife Jody says hi, even though AI said we were somehow married, which I can't figure out how it even came to that conclusion. I'm like, how did it even get to that?
With it. Yeah, like, first of all, why would Krista Scott-Dixon husband be a recommended search? And
Right.
then, like, it's just a series of stacked up questions. Yeah,
My
yeah. So
buddy
that
Cav
was a
sent
great
that to me, and I
example.
was like, what? I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. So that's a perfect example of why not to trust AI.
Oh, and the hard part, I had this discussion with sort of a client the other day, and he's like, well, I spent like a couple hours, looking this stuff up on AI, and I'm like, the hard part is if you don't know enough about the background and know really what you're looking at, you will be utterly convinced that what you put in is like the greatest thing ever. Like the analogy I use is if I wanted to reverse engineer my taxes and not pay my CPA, after many hours of AI, I could probably convince myself that I know a lot about taxes, but I wouldn't know where it's lying to me. I wouldn't know what questions to ask. I would just have this super inflated knowledge that's probably built on a house of cards.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because the current LLMs are really just story making machines. So
Right.
we don't see the back end of all the math, but like it's just a story machine, and humans just love stories. And so even if there's gaps in the story or factual inaccuracies, if it's presented with like the narrative structure of a story, our brain's like, yeah, sounds legit. Like, as I'm
Yeah.
sure you know, it makes up citations and it will put the citations in more or
Yep.
less a correct enough format. And our brain's like, yeah, that seems right. Like that sounds like it could be a journal, right? So it's just it's such a dangerous thing for that reason because it just hits all those brain buttons in humans that are like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like it could be correct.
Yeah, I got busted on that about a year ago. At the time, I was trying to because in my newsletter, I don't like putting all the DOI links because if you put a bunch of references, you get like 7 different links and then the server freaks out and thinks it's spam and all this stuff. So I had trained ChatGPT to say, okay, here's my references. Just pull out the DOI link. And I checked it a whole bunch of times, wrote the newsletter, had all the original references, knew what they were, blah, blah, blah. I was in a hurry and I said, okay, yeah, just convert this, drop the DOI. It's like, great, done. Boom, I hit send. And then of all people, my buddy Tommy Wood goes, hey, I can't find this one paper on reference number 3 and 4 and 5. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, God, this looks familiar. And none of them were real. But what was real was the authors were real. The year they published it was real. Some of the journals were real. And some of the titles were actually all real. but they were all juxtaposed where the actual reference did not exist whatsoever. I
It's
was like,
wild.
oh crap. The one time I didn't, double check it, which is a good lesson for me. I've always like, don't trust anything that it does and, double check everything. But even at a quick glance, I like it passed as sort of the Uber sniff test when you're in a hurry. I'm like, yeah, I've seen that author before. I've seen that title before. Yeah, yeah, oh, looks good. Ah, it's good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so many folks are learning the hard way to yeah, like because I think that like the next phase in work for a lot of people is now going to be cleaning up the AI slop that was generated after companies discovered AI and were like, hey, you should use AI all the time. And so I feel like like the next phase of career is like AI slop babysitter or AI slop cleaner. So all of us have just like regressed to fixing the mistakes we shouldn't have made in the first place.
Yeah. And at what point is it what is the name for it? The snake that eats its own tail? That
Yes.
the AI is just regenerate. Because how would you, when you put out stuff on the internet, how do you know it's generated by AI? So if AI is currently scraping all of the internet, how do you know it's not scraping stuff that AI actually created that probably wasn't correct to begin with? And I don't know. That's well beyond my pay grade, but
Well, this is the dead internet theory, right? Which is eventually it becomes this
ooh, I
like
haven't heard this
in
one.
oh yeah, yeah. Eventually the idea is that eventually the internet will become this infinite regress of just like bots talking to bots. Like, the mirror, when you look in the mirror and you have those two
Mm-hmm.
mirrors and it's just this infinite regressive mirrors, except you'll get this sort of degradation of quality too, right? It'll be
Mm.
like photocopying something a million times. And so eventually nothing on the internet will be have anything that's been generated by a real human being with any level of fidelity. So it's just like this ocean of AI, recursive AI slop.
But it presents it out in a way to you that it's just so confident that it's correct. And
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'll even put stuff in that I know is right just to sort of test it. And then I get in these, so stupid, but I get in these argument matches with it and I start trying to present it data that I know is real and it keeps saying that it's not real. And I'm like, what the, crap.
Yep.
So what do you think is the antidote to that? Like, what are things people should be wary of or kind of fall back to better practices?
Well, I hate to say this and sound like such a buzzkill, but the antidote is basic skills. And I think there's such a good analogy with processed foods or like processed exercise, if we can call it that. But processed foods is a good analogy, right? And so in our line of work, we teach people food skills, eating skills, hunger awareness skills that people knew generations ago. And we're kind of like reteaching them. But these skills have degraded in the current age, right? People don't know even really basic cooking skills. And so we're reteaching them. And we're also teaching people the skills of swimming upstream in a social environment where like everything is pressuring you not to do these skills as well as other health habits, right? Don't go to
Hmm.
bed on time, don't get regular daily exercise. So anyone who's interested in doing health behaviors has to push against this current constantly. And so a lot of the work that we do is honestly just teaching the skills themselves, how to move correctly, how to sleep well, how to eat well, but also the skills of how to now do these in a context where everything is pushing you backwards to not do it. So that sounds like a really complicated answer, but it can be very simple. So for example, like honestly, just basic critical thinking skills. And this is something I harp on a bit in my book, which is like super basic. Like I talk in my book about literacy, like actual literacy. Can you read and write at a functional level? In the US is shockingly low. But even stuff
Horrible.
like health literacy, digital literacy, can you like understand, can you put together a decent argument in favor of anything? Can you assess evidence? And I don't mean like a PhD student
Yeah.
level of quality, but like, can you tell if something's bullshit or not? And so I think the antidote to this is doubling down on these super basic skills that ideally in a perfect world, right? Anyone who's gone through the educational system should have, but as we know, they very much don't. So yeah, it's honestly just yeah, a lot of basics.
Yeah, I years ago I left a certain institution I was teaching online for because writing was so horrible. I literally
Mhm.
was pulling my hair out. And at first I thought, well, I don't know, maybe it was just this semester, maybe it was bad. And some of the students, to their credit, did get better over the 12 weeks. And some didn't at all. And then the next semester came and it was the same. And the following semester came and it was the same. And I'm like, I literally had to send a note saying, okay, these are short essays, they're 2 to 3 pages. What you want you to do is to have an introduction. Here is what's in the introduction, and then 3 to 4 body paragraphs, and then here's the conclusion of. I think it wasn't necessarily their fault. They just, no one had taught them even the most basic structure of how to do that. And then I'm trying to explain to them how to, look at data and how to make an argument where they're still trying to figure out how do I put sentences together.
Yes, it's super disturbing. And I just saw an article recently that the first year computer science students at UC Berkeley, like this is the first year when like so many of them just lacked basic math skills that a huge proportion of this cohort failed. And this is like UC Berkeley. Like
Yeah,
this
this is
is
not like a
not
low tier place.
right. So this is very alarming, I think, that these skills are lacking. And I mean, like it's exactly what you're describing. Like it's around half of Americans, just over half, like are below a sixth grade level. So
Mm,
what this means is they struggle to even do things like read labels or understand what medications do or follow instructions or follow safety information. So like this is really like a disturbing thought. Never mind releasing their AI stupidity into the world, but like a huge proportion of people just don't even function well in like daily life tasks, which I think probably explains a lot. Like if you're listening to this and you work in the healthcare field and you're trying to tell people not to
oof.
eat Tide Pods, right? Or you're like, uh-huh, yeah.
Uh-huh. I can't believe that was actually a thing. So I thought someone told me that, and I literally thought they're making this up to see if I believe them. And then I did the old, internet search, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, I think it explains the state of a lot of where we're at with health information currently, where people, like, we can get all salty about it and be like, oh my God, people believe in, I don't know,
Yeah, back in
homeopathy or
my
whatever.
day.
But yeah, but the reality is that people are just trying to do their best
Yeah.
with a very limited skill set and just like fundamentally lacking the ability to discern good quality information from poor quality information or to reason through a problem. So like on the one hand, I don't blame people. On the other hand, I'm like, God damn, can we please get it together? Like we're going to be in real big trouble if we don't turn this ship around.
Yeah. Especially in the US, it just seems like the paradox to me is that even if you only cared about the economy, you would still fund science. And I would make tons of arguments of why you should fund science and the benefit to everybody on the planet. But they can't even, our administration can't even figure that out. They're just like, oh, they might disagree with us. Let's just slash all their funding and education. And people are just left to fend for themselves, which, like you mentioned, scares me even more because now there's less sort of help and less organizations that are trying to differentiate information, create actual new information, disseminate it in a way people understand it. So hopefully that'll change. But in the meantime, I that's like one of the things that just makes me so nervous about where we're headed because those institutions and funding and trials and all that stuff, even if we can magically turn all the funding back on tomorrow, as you know, the ramifications, it's just not that simple. It's going to be years to decades to reverse that with who knows what consequences. So that's my little political
Well,
spiel.
no, that's and I'll add one more piece because I just heard this yesterday because it was from a sociologist. And she was talking about the data on like parents refusing of basic medical care for their kids. And she was saying like on if you look at just the quantitative data, you would think that oh like this is just a bunch of dummies and what's wrong with them. But if you look in the qualitative data and you actually talk to people, what they're feeling is so abandoned by the healthcare system,
Yes.
which is totally understandable. They're feeling so abandoned by the healthcare system and yet also so responsible for their kids' well-being, especially the moms, because we
Hmm.
now have a culture where like if anything goes wrong with your kid, it's like your fault, right?
Yeah.
So the moms feel like hyper responsible for everything. So there's kind of this panic response where they're like, oh God, like I have to go and find answers about what to do. And then, of course, if you don't have a medical education, which most of people don't, right? It's so easy to fall down a rabbit hole. But you believe that you're truly doing the right thing, and also that this is all on you. Like if your kid gets sick, you are directly responsible. So there's like this panic kind of motivation. And as you know, when we get scared, we never make ideal choices.
No.
But really, it emerges from the current state of affairs in North America, where people just feel so, again, abandoned by the healthcare system and so kind of like out in the wilderness. They're like, okay, I guess I got to make this work. And then the first thing I stumble across is like essential oils, or I don't know, like what the hell, right? Drinking raw, eating something raw that in previous generations would have killed me. Combined with also, we no longer have, for the most part, the living memory of the consequences of this stuff, right?
Hmm.
We don't have a situation where you have 75% of your kids dying before they get to age 2. Like we don't remember this state of affairs anymore. And so there's this kind of paradox where it's like, oh, well, life's pretty good. I guess we'll just stop making the decisions that led to it being good. It's like when you
Hmm.
take an antibiotic for a couple days and you're like, I feel better. I probably don't need to finish this course, right? It's kind of like that. Or like, oh, I've never had an accident, so like why should I wear a seatbelt? Like it's kind of that
Yeah. And I'll make
logic.
sure to flush
Mhm.
the antibiotic down the toilet, which is a great move.
That's right. Along with all my, Coke and antidepressants
Yeah.
and birth control. Just like turn the frogs gay or whatever the fuck it was
Yeah,
that Alex Jones said.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you probably noticed with your clients and your work too. Like I've noticed with mine over the last probably 5 years, even especially more the last couple of years, the amount of medical questions I get. And again, I'm not an MD, but just a lot of time that I spend just trying to guide them through the decision process. And I totally understand. And I would much rather them ask me so I can get them, actual legit sources, because one of the pros of doing this for 20 plus years is you happen to know people in areas. So I know people who's a surgeon who does colonoscopies. I know functional neurologists. I know people that you can kind of be like, okay, I don't know. Let me ask this person if this is what they would do, or here's the 3 questions to ask your doctor when you go in, for this appointment to make sure you get the good information. And I just feel like I just see that as exponentially increased because, like you said, people are very afraid of making the wrong decision, and the amount of just crazy information is insane. And the physicians are hosed because they literally have 5 minutes to talk to you because the system is a mess. So it's not necessarily their fault either. So even when you get in and they're trying to do the best they can, they're trying to operate within this goofball system. So it's, yeah, just kind of a weird escalation of things.
It's like the worst possible case for everybody involved.
Yeah, there's
And
no,
I think
unless you're an insurance company, nobody makes it out ahead.
that's true. The only people that win are the lawyers and the insurance companies
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think people have this idea of like, oh, my healthcare provider doesn't care or is somehow invested in the opposite of
They're
my
captured by big
well-being.
pharma.
Yeah, like somehow they're malevolent or something like that. And it's such a disservice to the care providers themselves. So yeah, everybody's a loser here almost.
Yeah. Well, this is depressing. I'm just kidding.
That's right. Well, on the plus side, how can we
On the
help
plus
people get
side.
better? Well, okay, so let's give the good news, right? Because like
Yes.
one of the themes of the book that I've been working on is really just that like okay, we can't turn around this entire system like individually, but there's so much we can bring in the way of simple tools. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? A lot of the solutions, the problems are complex, but a lot of the time the solutions are simple.
Yeah.
And I think that we've often been rightfully warned about things like scope of practice, right? Stay in your scope of practice.
Hmm.
Smart, that sounds good. I think we're all on board with that. At the same time, I think it's made people really nervous about doing things that are helpful and within scope of practice, but because they kind of feel like, ooh, like, are these within my scope of practice? Are they not? And so like one of the things I've tried to communicate is you can help people improve their health behaviors with these very simple techniques that I've stolen from counseling, that I've stolen from social work, that I've stolen from all these other disciplines because they're good. They're
They
just good
work.
tools that no one has a lock on. And so let's take these simple tools that are completely safe to use and deploy them in the service of helping people improve their health and their health behaviors. So I think that's the good news that, okay, we have to come up with alternative models to systems that are broken. But maybe that's a good thing because it invites us to consider new pathways or rejuvenate skill sets that maybe we've lost. Like even stuff like basic stuff, food prep, right? Like, okay, maybe we need to reboot that. But it's there waiting for us. It's available and anyone can use it. So anyway, that was a little bit of a long rambly tangent, but I
Yeah.
do think there is some good news, and I do think that we are empowered to act within these systems or act outside of the systems in some ways to collectively, participate in the greater good.
Yeah, the scope of practice I think is good because let's say I've gotten yelled at a fair amount for air quote what looks like violating my scope of practice because I was talking about nutrition or I was talking about movement or a simple screen from a functional neurology thing. Again, I'm not trying to diagnose anyone, not saying you have this or that, but all of that as long as you're within sort of the health area. And again, you are educated on it, you know what you're doing. I see some people doing a lot of vision training now that some are really, really good at it, and some are going to turn people into melted candles because they don't know what the hell they're doing. So I think staying within your knowledge base is helpful. But I would argue that because of the way the system is, it's up to, all of us as individuals and especially as, coaches and practitioners and trainers, whatever word you want to associate. Like to me, those are the people that are going to have to fill all of these gaps. Like the medical system's not going to change overnight. Yes, you do need to use it when it's useful, but most of the things people are dealing with now are almost very high lifestyle choices from obesity to cardiovascular disease, and like you said, can be modified by very simple stuff, very simple movements, very simple nutrition, very simple counseling, psychological things. And I think we sometimes forget the power of that because, I have a simple phrase too that's, complex physiology, but your actions are simple. Like we could have a very long discussion about the deadlift and proper hinging and motor coding and all the things that go into it. But at the end of the day, you're going to give the client one cue like, yeah, grab the bar, push your feet through the floor. Let's see how that goes. Right? You're not going to
Mhm.
give them a dissertation for 17 minutes and expect it to turn out good. Right? You're going to be like, hey, let's actually grill protein this week. That's, number one thing. And I think sometimes trainers want, and I know I've been guilty of this in the past too, of trying to make it look more complicated because we feel like, why is someone going to pay us money to tell them simple stuff? But the reality is they're not doing the simple stuff. And if we can leverage and prioritize the simple stuff that's going to have them moving in the right direction first in a land of like 8,000 decisions, I think that's super, super powerful.
Yeah. And honestly, a huge relief because
Yeah,
like our clients are coming to us now, speaking of AI, like so overwhelmed by all
even
of
more
this
overwhelmed than
competing.
before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just mind-boggling now. And so and there's this undercurrent of anxiety to it. Like there's this feeling of panic of like, oh my God, what if I don't get this right? Like obviously being a middle-aged woman myself, I'm aware of the menopause grift space. And
Oh,
so now
oof.
like there's so many middle-aged women just wandering around thinking, dear God, like, are my bones going to just turn into powder if I don't
You're
get
turning into dust.
300 grams of protein and like all this kind of stuff, right? So it creates this kind of like low-lying mass hysteria, so to speak. And so clients come to us and they feel so overwhelmed and so pushed and pulled and so guilty and so moralizing and like all of these things that none of which are conducive to health and actually doing those behaviors. And so I think it can be a huge relief for a coach to convincingly be that voice of wise, calm expertise and just say, look, you don't have to worry about any of that. Like I will tell you, like on a stack of science textbooks, you really don't have to worry about that. Yes, if you want, we can do a deep dive into the biochemistry of it. But if I could just tell you one thing, it's have a glass of water or go for a walk or like whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
I think a lot of clients experience that as a real relief. And so I think that's actually one of the services that we offer is not complexity. It is simplicity and simplicity with a genuine and convincing confidence that yes, this is the path. It's like you want sort of that imaginary far off gong, right? When you say like, just drink a glass of water, and the client is like gong, and they're like, oh, great, phew, that feels so much better. Hmm.
Yeah, I've often joked that trainers and counselors and people are just you're just a glorified translator. By all
Yeah,
means, like understand the complex stuff. Like you should know those things because that allows you to iterate and to get better results. But at the end of the day, you're just taking all of that and everything that's going on with the client and translating that into, oh, okay, when you get up in the morning, how about you go for a walk for 10 minutes without glasses on? Oh, okay.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Movement, burning fat, circadian rhythms, whatever. They probably don't need to know all those things, but they come back and they're like, oh, I did that for 2 weeks and I feel better. My sleep's better. My movement's better. You're like, oh, cool. Okay, let's add the next thing. And just I think we underestimate how powerful that is when people actually do the simple things that are correct.
yeah. And ultimately, our job in a way as coaches is, yes, we have expertise. Yes, we have technical knowledge, but ultimately, we're trying to make the clients the authoritative experts on their own experience.
Hmm.
So you live in your body, you know your body best. And so I can help you become a more skilled observer of that and to link cause and effect. Like when I have this input, I get this output. Because as we know from studies like underreporting of food intake and overreporting of exercise, like we're all completely oblivious to the realities of what we're doing. Not because we're
Hmm.
stupid, it's just because our brains are just not very good at perceiving certain things accurately. And so all of us are just walking around deluded because we have human brains that are doing human brain things. And so the more we can teach clients those incredibly simple skills of like, just notice what happens and notice relationships between things, and then see what happens when you experiment with changing those inputs. Like, that's a huge gift. Like, teaching people what does hunger feel like and how do you know when you're tired, and just super, super basic stuff. Or if you're coaching movement, how does your body feel when you do this? And how do you know the difference if you've made some kind of posture adjustment or something like that? Most of us are just walking around completely out of our bodies, having an out of body
Yeah.
experience right now, right? We're texting as we're walking and walking into telephone poles. Like none of
Oh
us are
yeah.
in our bodies right now, right? So even just the basic skill of like self-observation and body awareness, chef's kiss, huge gift.
Yeah, the amount of people I'm lucky I only go to commercial gym once or twice a week. Other than that, I just train in my garage, which is amazing. But the amount of people I've almost ran into in the gym, who are on their phone texting in between one piece of equipment to the next piece with their head complete. I'm like, what? And my new pet peeve is it's always the pec deck. I don't know why. People can't walk by that thing without having to hop on and stare at it and do something. And then they'll sit there like a stuffed animal on their cell phone for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, what? It's just so odd. The other day I looked around at the gym and there's probably 10 people in there. Nine of them at that point in time were not moving and were literally punching something on their phone or watching their phone. I was like, this isn't a
Hmm.
gym. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so wild.
Yeah, we've become such a dissociative society that all of us are just floating heads at this point. And then clients are mystified. Like, why do I feel bad? If I even notice
Yeah,
that I feel bad. But like once feeling bad has like reached a certain threshold,
threshold. Yeah.
why do I feel bad? And they're baffled. They're genuinely baffled by it. And then of course this is where the grifty part comes in. They think, well, I've been to my doctor and I haven't achieved some kind of satisfactory explanation or solution. So this must mean it's some incredibly complex health situation that I then need to do some kind of protocol for, right? And this is kind of like a string of small failures, like all strung together, not on the part of the person, but I mean
Right.
like system failures, right?
Hmm.
Um, and again, like as coaches, we can say, no, no, no. Like, let's just roll it back, focus on these small and consistent things. Yes, if you do turn out to be a one in a billion genetic weirdo that has, a new medical condition unknown to science, we'll work on that. And we'll help you prepare maybe some good self-observations to bring to your healthcare provider so that you can have a good conversation. Because I also know that people go to their doctor and they're just like, I feel bad. And the
Yeah.
doctor's like, well, is it like this, and this? And they're
Okay.
like, I don't know, right? So all of the doctors out there are also like face palming, like, oh my
Yep.
God, you have no idea how unhelpful these people are. So can we even just prepare them to have a better basic level of interaction with their healthcare provider? I also feel like that's a win, right? Like, hey, you have
Sure.
back pain, cool. What's the nature of it? When during the day is it better or worse? What activity? Like, let's go in there with like a one pager, an executive summary for your doctor to help your doctor out as well. So anyway, again, for me, it's like it's almost always simple solutions. Like in my history, like I've only ever had one client with a legitimate, for example, a legitimate cortisol issue because there was like a pituitary tumor. Like
Oh,
I've had
sure.
things of clients who were like, oh
My
no, my cortisol needs to be balanced. It's like,
adrenals, they're shot. They don't
yeah, it's
work.
like, okay, well, statistically, like, anyway, that is a little bit of a rant, but you see where I'm going with this, I hope.
Yeah. You probably don't have Cushing's or Addison's disease. Like you probably don't.
No, you
Those things are
probably
real,
don't,
but
but not you, very
yeah,
likely.
yeah. Yeah. And that's what it's and I get it. It's so hard because we're kind of wired for linear thinking and the simple solution. And unfortunately, marketers have kind of figured this out and will present to us, oh, it's cortisol is your reason you don't feel good or can't lose weight, or it's always a simple solution that rarely is that the thing. And it's hard because a lot of the explanation they use is kind of real physiology, just bastardized for what I was saying, nefarious reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. It's honestly a lot like how ChatGPT or any of these LLMs work, right? It's kind of the
Yeah.
same thing. It's like there's just enough science in there that makes you go, huh, that sounds legit. Like it's truthy. It
Hmm.
sounds plausible. So maybe this is me. And it's enough like a horoscope, where your confirmation bias just fills in the rest. And so you read something like, hey, are you feeling tired and distracted? And you're like, yes,
Oh, I
that's
am.
me.
That is
It's like,
me.
who is it not in
Yeah.
2026? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to tell you one of the more powerful lessons I got from you was about simple solutions was I don't remember if it was on the old precision nutrition forums or where it was. Someone was saying that they had a client and they were giving them these, simple solutions and the client said that they were doing them but was very upset that they weren't, getting the result and this was too easy and why did they pay them all this money? And you just wrote back, you're like, just tell the client that if it's too easy, then just show me. Like if it's that easy to
Mhm.
eat protein every day, then show me that you're eating protein every day. And I thought
Yeah.
that was like just simple, but also brilliant. And I've stolen that and used it I don't know how many times. So if
Good
someone's like,
stuff.
hey, this thing, I'm like, because we know like fruit and vegetable intake, right? People dramatically overestimate what that
Yes.
actually is. So they're like, "Oh, I already do that." I'm like, "All right, just show me. Like literally just send me pictures of your vegetables per day or we'll log it or we'll do something. We'll just do it for a week and we'll just see where we're at." And the amount of times that comes back of, "Oh, yeah, I'm not doing so good on this."
Yeah, that's
And
right.
it's just like this
Yeah.
big awareness drill. I feel like I should just change my name to like awareness coach. And again, the people are
Yeah.
not they're not trying to do this on purpose. Like they're not trying to make my life difficult or anything like that. It's just literally how their brains are just wired now.
Yeah. Yeah. Our brains actively hide things from us. And then of course there's that classic Dunning-Kruger effect,
Yeah.
or, more expansively, it's just if you lack expert knowledge and expert competency, is important, not just knowledge, but competency in a field, you don't know what you don't know. And it's kind of like the person who goes to the gym, an MMA gym, and they've seen stuff on YouTube and they watch UFC and they go in there as a very confident white belt. And the black belt's taking it easy on them. So
Yeah.
they're like, oh, yeah, I submitted a black belt today, right?
Uh-huh.
They have no like actual accurate perception. They can't calibrate themselves. And so, like, one of the client groups that I work with is actually people going through some kind of selection pipeline for special operations
Yep.
military or first responder or whatever. And it's such a hard wake up call for a lot of these guys
Oh,
because a lot of them are
it's
like young guys,
brutal.
right? So they've been like the best athlete in their small town high school or whatever, but then they get into the big leagues with selection and it's so humbling. And like this instructors and other team members will straight up just say, you shouldn't be here. Like, you're not ready. You shouldn't be here. You're not good enough. It's so crushing and so like recalibrating, but not in a fun way. It's humiliating. And so, unfortunately, I think a lot of folks are walking around with this delusion of knowing things without having enough expertise to really know that you don't know anything. Like, even me, I've written literally like this whole textbook. I still feel like I don't know anything. I
Yeah.
still feel like I have to say, like, just give me a second. Just gotta look this up just to double
Yeah.
check that I didn't get it wrong. And so now I walk around just questioning everything, like even just the most basic things, like, is vitamin C a thing? I better just double check like before I open my mouth and say something stupid. So I think that's really how expertise feels rather than just like complete overconfidence.
Yeah. I remember having this discussion with Kyle Dietz years ago, and I was telling him, like, yeah, I'm finishing this PhD thing, but I just feel like I have more questions on that I've ever had. And like my whole research is just this tiny, tiny, tiny little area of this small little thing that I feel like I might know something. And I feel like the older I get, the worse it gets. And he's like, he's like, yeah, the older you get it, the worse it gets. He's like, 20 years from now, we'll be fucking idiots.
That's how it feels. So true. Yeah.
That's what it feels like though. But I think in some ways that's probably a positive, and it's just it's the ever-ending rabbit hole of like, oh, this thing, that thing, and then you have more questions because you didn't even know that thing existed before. So it's just this. I spent a fair amount of time even just doing meditation and the thought experiment of the older I get, the more stuff I do, the more questions I'm gonna have, and that's just the way it's gonna be. Like
Yeah.
it's never probably gonna go down. Yes, you can learn new things. Yes, you can get better. You can acquire skills, but the amount of questions and things you're gonna want to learn, it's only gonna go up, not down.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be overwhelming at times. And then as you get older, you're going to start to panic because you're going to be like, oh no, I don't have enough time
Now
to
you're running
learn
out of
all the
time. I know.
things. God, there's like 50 languages I could be learning and a similar number of musical instruments. And yeah, it's all these places I could have visited. Like, it's just questions lead to more questions. And so part of being a curious and intelligent person is managing the anxiety, the existential anxiety of just how many questions offer themselves to you versus like your actual human ability to ever answer them. But I do think it's kind of a positive thing. I think that when you lose your curiosity, that's pretty much when you start dying, right? Like
Hmm.
when you're in a period of like, what else is there to know? It's like, ooh, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. Any tips on trying to manage the things, your projects and things that keep escalating? Any thoughts or words of wisdom there?
I don't know if I'm the right person to talk to about this. I'm one of those multi-potential people who always is doing a million things, but I do
That's why
think
I'm
that,
asking.
yeah, it does force a reckoning around values.
Hmm.
So why are you saying yes to this and maybe no to that? If you have to say yes to this and no to that, and that causes distress, why? Right? So I think it allows you to dig deeper into your values. And some time ago, like years ago, I was really struggling with prioritization. So as one does, of course, I made a very complex spreadsheet with like weighted variables, like some variables are more important than others, right? And I had like a set of 12 criteria and then like also a predicted shit score versus an actual shit score. So I was trying to calibrate my perceptions of like how shitty something would be versus how shitty it actually was. And basically what I arrived at is like over time as much as possible. Like it's different earlier in your career, but over time as much as possible, look for those things that either open up more possibilities and or are just basically cool shit with cool people. However you
Hmm.
define cool, that there's some kind of intrinsic pleasure to these, whether even if you're struggling to do them at the time, right? Like training a difficult sport, for example. I'm sure with your sports, like there's moments where you're like, why am I doing this? I hate
Yeah.
this.
Why
This
am I
is a terrible
kiteboarding? I just
idea.
got dropped
Yeah,
20 feet out of the sky. This is just
that's right.
fucking stupid ass sport.
So stupid. I hate myself for this. Um, but like there's some intrinsic fulfillment that you're getting from that. And so as much as possible, yes, we all have to do the boring adult
Yeah.
crap. But as much as possible, we want to prioritize those things that are going to either open up more possibilities for us. Like learning a language is a good example of that. Or in the book, I talk about meta skills, right?
Yeah.
The
That's what I
skills
was just
that
thinking of.
unlock other skills. Yeah. So, like planning, for example, like being able to think and anticipate and think proactively and like think a few chess moves ahead. That's an incredibly valuable skill. So, if there's some activity that you're doing that enables you to learn and practice those kinds of skills, that's something to prioritize. Something else I personally prioritize is low bullshit. Like how much bullshit is involved relative to the ROI, right? Because bullshit will like exponentially suck down the ROI. So even if it's
Oh,
something that
real
like makes you a
fast
ton of
too.
money, if you have to deal with assholes or if there's a ton of bullshit involved, it's like this $1 million, well, if such a thing exists. Just to be clear, this is a clearly purely
Yeah.
hypothetical scenario. But even if you make $1 million, but there's just a wild amount of bullshit and hassle in it, that $1 million is going to feel kind of crappy. Versus like if you do something for free or low cost, but it's just such an amazing experience, the feeling of that is going to be completely different. So definitely factor in invisible taxes, like invisible drains on your time, attention, energy, on your soul. Like factor in those invisible taxes, like a long commute in traffic, or shitty people, or a negative environment, or something where there's lots of hoops that you have to jump through, and recognize that that will be a massive drain on the ROI of something, and factor it in to your decision making. Think really deeply about all of the factors involved, not just the primary ones. Because I think sometimes people are like, oh, well, I'm going to take this job because it pays this much money, or I'll buy this house because it's this price. Okay, but what if the house again has a 2 hour commute and it has this nightmare lawn, and now your second full-time job is like mowing the lawn, right? Or like whatever. So it's really, really critical to sort of, I mean, even it's the same thing with health and nutrition, right? Okay, cool. You're really attracted to this nutrition plan, this exercise plan. You really want abs. Cool. What are all the trade-offs there? Are you
Hmm.
prepared to have uncomfortable conversations with your friends and family? Are you prepared to spend 3 hours a day in the gym? Are you prepared to do this? And are you prepared to, be up cooking late at night, stuffing your
Do you
food in
like being
Tupperware?
hungry?
Yeah, like all of these things, right? So really try to think about all of the factors involved as much as possible. You obviously can't anticipate all of them, but for me, like low bullshit and low drain on my personal resources is a huge one. Versus, the flip side of that is cool things with cool people, which is how I find myself here today. Because doing a podcast with Mike Nelson is cool things with cool
Oh, well,
people,
thank you.
I feel.
Yeah, I had a discussion with a buddy a few months ago now about, working with a sports team. And on one hand, it would be cool because you have all the cool toys and you get to work with high level athletes. But I've noticed there's also a huge difference in cultures across teams and schedules and expectations. And so for me personally, there's some sports where there's probably a price, but it would be ungodly high for me to be the person traveling with the team, doing everything, doing all that stuff, being gone, having to fix schedule, having a crazy schedule. Yeah, it'd be easy to say, oh, there's not enough money. Well, there's probably a price that if they want to, unload a few $1 million per year at my house, I might do it for a couple of years. But, it's all those trade-offs where on the outside, initially, it's like, oh, that looks amazing. You get to be, the guy or the gal with, whatever. And even I had a chance last year to do some work with high-level tennis pro in Europe. And it was great. And at first I was like, oh, this will be fun. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to give myself 24 hours to think about it because it also means you're going to be on a plane. As soon as you get off the plane, you're going to be at work. You're probably going to be with them for, 12, 13 hours a day for a set number of days. Like, is this something you really want to do? Because it's easy, I found, to get overwhelmed initially by the opportunity and you only think of all the good stuff. So now I try to
Mhm.
give myself, okay, give me 24 hours to decide. And then, like you said, think about, okay, everything else that's involved. Is this something I want to do? And I ended up doing it and it worked out great and it was super fun. But I also, at the end of it, was like, for that amount of money, which it paid me very well, and you wanted me to do this again next week? Oh no, 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 not doing it, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of that decluttering tip, which is like, if you have an object in your house and it got poop on it, would you throw that thing away or clean off the poop?
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
And so we can kind of apply this to our life choices. And as you were talking, there was another one that came up for me, which is how much of myself, like my true and genuine self, do I have to sacrifice for this
Mm,
opportunity? So, for example, do I have to heavily mask who I am
yep.
and my values and what I stand for in order to succeed in this role? Do I have to become, let's say, a corporate dancing monkey? Do I have to, even I remember back in the day when I was in academia, now this would have been in the like late 90s, early 2000s, and I was working as a personal trainer through most of that time because it paid better than being a research assistant. When
Which is
people
totally
found,
true.
which is, yeah, but when people found out, it was like a whole shame thing. It was like, why are you involved in this like tool of the oppressor, like physical fitness? Like that was the view of it as the time, that anything involving your physical body was just like capitulation to the man kind of stuff. The attitudes changed now, but and so I felt like I had to hide this whole part of my life to be part of this culture that completely downgraded the value of the physical body. Um, Kind of ironic, but anyway, so like what of yourself do you have to sacrifice? Whether that's like a characteristic of yourself, age, gender, ethnicity, whether that's a personality quirk that you have, like, are you the hardcore nerd? And are you going to be in an environment where they don't dig on science? Like that's going to
Yeah.
be a problem, right? So really think about where you can truly be yourself in all your weird glory. Now, obviously, we can't be completely genuine in a work context, but like find the place where you can be most yourself, or make the choices, I should say, that allow you to be most yourself. So not just in at work, but in all of these areas of your life. And the analogy is something like, I mean, you can do any sport you want, right? But it also feels really good to find sports and activities that work for your body. Now
hmm
you've met me. I'm not a tall person. Like playing
Nope.
basketball, sure, I could if I wanted,
Yeah,
right?
for fun.
But for fun, but I have found much more success in things that are good for small people. Like I will crush the agility ladder every single time because there's a good like
Oh yeah.
strength to mass ratio, right? There's just not as much body weight moving around. So like as much as possible, find things where you where your gifts align really well and the person that you are aligns really well. So as it turns out, I tend to be pretty good at writing textbooks. It's like my hobby
Yeah.
now,
Show us how big the
apparently.
book is.
So here we go.
A weightlifting experiment here.
Yeah, this is the chunky boy. So yeah,
Ooh. 700 some
yeah,
pages.
700 and some
Oh, there's
pages.
colored pictures in there too. I'm
Oh yeah, there's
excited now.
color. Oh yeah, these. Oh, let's see if I can find one. Yeah, there's like nice. They did a really nice job with like all the nice pictures of fruits and vegetables, so you know it's
Oh,
about
nice. I
nutrition.
like
But
it.
there's like some, yeah, there's some colored. There's like pretty pictures and charts and graphs and worksheets and all that kind of stuff in there. But yeah, it turns out I just have a knack for writing textbooks, and so I found the niche where where that works. And so when they approached me to write the textbook, I was like, yes, you've found your woman.
Yeah, I think that's an to underscore that point of picking projects that you just like doing. So like it was probably 3 or 4 years, 3 years ago now. I was at this point where I'm like, okay, so now if I have opportunities, like how do I decide? Like how do I pick this project versus that project? And I ended up doing a ayahuasca ceremony in Costa Rica, and that was like my big question. And the answer came back of, hey, you should just do the things you love doing. And I'm like, oh, that's so simple. But it works. That makes sense. Oh, I had to come all the way down here to get that answer, but it's still back to simple things that provide, you know, useful things. I'm like, that is super useful. Oh, because it's again, it sounds overly simplistic, but I think a lot of times we talk ourselves into things we may not really want to do or love doing for all sorts of crazy reasons.
And it reminds me of one of the questions I ask my clients, is this making me better or worse? Because they're
Mm,
like, well, should I do this, or I don't know, like try it. did it make you better or did it make you worse? Like it's like the
Mm-hmm.
hotter, colder game, right? We just sort of iterate towards whatever makes you better. And it's such a simple question. Like if I take this job, if I enter this relationship, if I move to this place, like sometimes you don't know, but you can still ask yourself, is this making me better or worse? However you define better or worse. Does it make me feel better? Does it make me function better? Does it make me a better human being? Like whatever my personal criteria is this making me better or worse? It's a simple question. And I kind of hate myself for it because I'm like, damn, like it's, when you ask yourself, you're like, it's embarrassing to say that I'm doing things sometimes that make me worse. And we all
Mm-hmm.
do, right?
Yeah.
But it really reduces it, like your ayahuasca question, to something incredibly simple.
Yeah, and better is so much better than optimal. So whenever I hear the
Mm,
word optimal, it's like I get it, but you can't ever test it, right? You can never find the optimal thing. However, I could tell you a protocol A is better than protocol B, right? So one of the things when I try not to use the word optimal, even though I still use it, explain to clients exactly what you said is they're like, oh, but I did so good on this program, but I don't know if it's the optimal one. I'm like, but you did better, right? You made progress. You
mm.
made, progress towards your goal. So that's better. And so the running joke with long-term clients I got from a good buddy, Adam Glass, is, oh, better is better. Like, yeah, better is better.
That's it. Better, better than zero. Yeah, it almost, I think a lot about the sort of 19th century scientific, like the very mechanistic model, which has this belief system that there is some kind of perfect thing that you
Hmm.
can just arrive at through deductive reasoning and enough apparatuses. It's almost like this
Enough
Platonic
testing, you'll get
ideal.
there.
Yeah, enough testing that, so first of all, that there is a state we could call optimal and that it can be defined and that it can be defined for literally everything. And then we could just arrive at it by putting protocols in place. Like it just feels like such a weird kind of Victorian era scientific mentality that we've circled back around to, even as much as we know about complexity and variation and dynamic systems and how things are constantly in flux. Like the idea of optimal should just be kind of ridiculous to us right now. I mean, I,
Hmm.
I get the I get the fantasy of it, and that's part of the problem. It's like dating now. So my day job is in app development,
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
yeah. I'm working with a health coaching app, working
Oh,
on
very
AI
cool.
and try to help build an AI coach, which is surprisingly difficult, but it's also the usual stuff like food tracking and workouts and
Hmm.
whatever. But one of the interesting things I learned in app development is so many of the choices in your apps are very deliberate to
Mm.
stimulate particular behavior. And one of which is the swipe behavior on an app, swiping left or right. And the idea is not to help you choose. That's not what that thing is there for. It is to keep you in the choosing loop so that you're
Mm.
constantly feeling like there's something better. Just one, the next swipe is like the slot machine. The next swipe is going to reveal
The
the thing
dopamine.
that's better. Yeah. But of course, it never happens. And so I think that we currently have found ourselves in a swiping society where the core belief is, again, there's this thing we could call optimal. It's just out of reach, but I can get to it with fill in the blank. Swiping enough times, proper protocol, blah, 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 running the program, buying the product. And so I think this is one of the underlying assumptions that's kind of guiding a lot of our decisions, that there is something better that I'm moving towards best, and that probably right now I should just be slightly dissatisfied with the thing that I have because it's like, oh, we're just not quite there. So I can never really derive any satisfaction from
You never arrive
anything.
anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like in that discussion, a lot of what I've gotten better at as a coach is explaining the cost of what things that people want to do.
Yes.
So especially like
Yeah.
people come in and like, oh, I want to get super lean for summer and we've got like, 5 months and I'm like, okay. And then you do the intake form, you see where they're at, you see their, VO2 max is low, their stress is high, they've got 3 kids and a dog, their hour commute and part of the discussion is okay, we can do this, but here's part of the cost it's going to cost
Mhm.
you to do this. Not in terms of money, but in terms of priorities. And then they're like, oh, well, I can't go out with my friends on Friday night and Saturday night. And it's like, explain to them that this is doable. We've done it before with lots of people, but here's the cost. Unless you're a complete genetic outlying freak, if you were, you probably wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't even have this discussion anyway. So, and then it's just to try to make it realistic. So I think they can make an educated decision, for it. Because I think the internet has kind of distorted a lot of that. Like, so one of the things I get, people are like, oh, you work in fitness. Well, I thought you'd be leaner. It's like, well, what if I don't want to be leaner right now? What if that's not my goal? What if I have other priorities of different things and I know and understand the cost to actually get leaner, because you've been there, done that, what is associated to do it again, right? I feel like if people don't have that experience and don't work with people, it's like, oh, well, it's so easy. It's like, no, no, there's always a cost to what's going on. And you can do it. It's just, back to making an educated decision again.
Mm-hmm. And following on this, I feel like we're circling back to our conversation around simplicity, but you can often tell so-called influencers who don't work with people or who work
Oh,
only
for
with a
sure.
limited pool of people because their recommendations are often so complex or involve so much executive function, so much thinky brain, so much time, energy, attention, focus, so much not having three kids and a dog.
Yeah.
So like even just stuff like training with your menstrual cycle, like
Oh, yeah.
in
Oh,
a very loose
my new
sense,
pet
it's not a
peeve.
bad idea, right? Like some
Sure.
days you're going to have more energy, some days you're going to
Yeah.
have less energy. Like, okay, cool, that's logical. But to kind of create this whole like astrological chart
Oof.
about it, that first of all, like stresses people out. Second of all, it's just like unless you're someone who has an unbelievably consistent like routine that you're going to go to the gym at the same time every day and you have complete power over everything that happens in your life, like the rest of us are just doing our taxes and buying groceries and oops, we missed the gym today because there was a power outage. Like almost none of us are capable of even executing that,
Yeah.
even if it were evidence-based, even if it were a good idea. Our level of capability for execution, especially consistent execution over the long term, is so low. And like I always tell my clients, we're planning for the worst version of you. Like we need
Hmm.
to know that you can do the things when you're hungover, when you have the flu, when the dog barked on the rug, when you're having an argument with your spouse. Like that's when you need to be able to deploy these skills, not in some imaginary perfect universe. And so, like you say, I don't think people realize the cost, and not just to themselves, but to everyone around them. Because if you've ever, lived with someone who's super into whatever the thing it is they're doing, whether it's going to grad school or med school. I'm sure you and I were both horrible people when we were going to grad school, but like,
Oh,
if they're going to
so
med
bad.
school or they're involved in some kind of really intense program, or again, they've decided they want to become professional dieters, which is what physique athletes are, right? You're just a
Hmm.
professional dieter. Um, like it's a cost not just to you, but to everything else in your life. It's a cost to you thriving as a human. I just learned this new term, like literally before I got on this call. It comes from German and it's basically like hobby-less behavior. So
Mm.
arguing on the internet is hobby-less behavior because you don't have a hobby. You're just like
Oh, I
you're
love
just
that.
like you have time to fill and you're just doing dumb shit with it. Yeah. So like it's at the cost of all these other things, just thriving as a complete human being, reading a book, doing a craft, like literally weeding a garden, literally anything else. And I find this sometimes a challenge, especially with health and fitness, because once you get into that world is very greedy. It can really suck you in because it's like you start with this very innocent motivation of like, you know what, I'm just going to eat a little better. And then you Google and maybe you find a podcast or a website or whatever. And then you're like, oh, there's some exercise suggestions here too. Okay. Right. And then like cut to 6 months from now and you're drinking bulletproof coffee and like timing your caffeine and wearing blue blocker sunglasses and like all this stuff. And you become this complete cyborg weirdo of optimization protocols. So that's really not what we want. That's not what we're trying to create. We're trying to create functioning, thriving human beings who are living human being lives that are complete rather than these weird these weird golems of optimization.
Yeah, which oddly enough, I'll get so much shit for this, but I have worked with some of those people, and most of them are actually very fragile. meaning
Yeah.
if something goes off for both physiologic or psychological reasons, not all of them, everything tends to go to crap. Like there was I would give the guy credit because I can't find this article. So I do a lot of stuff in metabolic flexibility. I'm like, you shouldn't be taken down by broccoli or, going out for a
Mhm.
cheat meal or whatever. Like all things aside, you should be able to handle that. You should be able to buffer a Pop-Tart in the morning once in a while. Your life shouldn't end, right? And he wrote a thing called the porcelain doll diet, where if you get so hyper fixated on certain things, like you actually can get better, but then you actually start developing more problems. And back to your saying, like with the special forces people I've worked with on selection, the ones that are the hardest are usually dudes who come in who read too many bodybuilding magazines and got their creatine timed to 3 hours after training. Their diet's perfect. They live out of Tupperware. And I'm like, bro, the first thing we're gonna do is like mess your shit up. Because do you really think if you get to selection, let's say you make it, that you're gonna have that level of control over your life? You are not, right? So, and they're like, oh my, at first they're just horrified, right? I'm like, hey, or just fail out right away, because you're gonna have so much variability and other things thrown at you that you can't be that regimented because your body does on some level adapt, to that. And to the credit, like the ones we worked with, like in generally they did pretty good. But the initial ontological shock was just like, oh,
Yes. And you've just used one of my favorite phrases, which is ontological shock. So
yeah,
for the listeners, this is such a great phrase. But I think you've really put your finger on it. And I always tell my selection folks that your job is to become a master of failure
yeah,
because selection, the whole purpose of selection is to take away all of your toys. So
yep,
it's like, oh, nice creatine routine. Shame if something were to happen to it. Shame if we were to give you 3 hours of sleep and roll you in the mud and make you walk 20 miles with God knows how much on your back and give you blisters and bug bites. And oh, by the way, we're not going to really feed you all that well. And then there's going to be a guy screaming in your face and you're going to be disoriented in the woods. Like that's what you're dealing with. You're not dealing like it's, I think people have an idea of these programs that you have to show up and be highly regimented. I actually make people do like chaos training. Like get yourself out
yes,
of bed at 2 in the morning,
yep,
get a pack on your back, have something irritating on your body, like a little rock in your shoe or like a scratchy tag or something like that. Don't have your music. Be friggin' hungry. You have to
yep,
pee the whole time. Right?
yeah,
Practice that because that is a much better like chaos, being a chaos goblin is a way better way to be resilient. You have to have range. And I'm sure people know this book that's come out, range, like it's called Range. I think David Epstein is the
oh, I
author.
love
Don't
that
quote
book. It's
me.
one of my favorite
Yeah,
books.
you have to be able to play all the keys on the keyboard rather than like having a very narrow window. So like I don't know if this is a Gen X thing or what, because I feel like all of us were just feral mutts like running wild in the yard, like drinking out of the hose and stuff, right? So maybe part of this is just the Gen X in me, but I do think that there's a lot of resilience that comes from being able to thrive in different environments, or at least, survive them and not be totally wrecked by them. And I think there was a lot of well-deserved mockery on the internet about that one guy who was like, "Oh, I had a glass of wine and it ruined me for days." Like,
Yeah,
I mean, that may be true. Like, if you're a middle-aged woman, I do believe that, right?
yeah,
But like, what kind of life are we building here where the tiniest thing wrecks you? Like, that's not the kind of person I want to become. I want to become the person who can, I don't know, like I think of the line from Rocky, like eat lightning and crap thunder. Like I
yeah,
want to be like the old goat in the yard just eating rubber tires and
yes,
stuff.
yeah. I got
Mm.
I got crap because I was eating Pop Tarts and drinking beer after kiteboarding. People are like, "Oh, you're the nutrition guy. How dare you do that?" I'm like, one, it's fine. I don't do it all the time. Two, I just rode 3 hours. I rode 50 some friggin' miles. Like, and am I worried about it? No, I'm not worried about it at all. Again, it's not that my diet every day is Pop Tarts and beer, but it just seems so weird that people would lose their mind about that because I think they believe that if they're more regiment, everything will be better. And the hard part is that is true up until a point. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, yes, if most people cleaned up their diet and ate real food and ate shocker vegetables and stuff, would most things go better for him? 100%. But you don't. I remember John Berardi saying this years ago, even with elite athletes, like 90% for most people is plenty good. Like the difference
Hmm.
between 90% and 100% is almost non-detectable. And I think there's this perception that we have to be 100% all the time. And, like we're talking, I would make the argument that that's actually a detriment. If I have
Yeah.
someone whose their diet's too clean, the first thought I have is like, let's dirty it up and see how you respond. If you fall apart, we got some things we need to work on then. That's just your
Hmm.
physiology should be more robust than that.
Yeah, I like the word robust a lot. And I think really
Or
in
even
biology,
anti-fragile if we want to get really crazy
yeah,
with words. Yeah.
anti-fragile is a good one too. But everything in biology has a sweet spot. Like
Yep.
there's literally no physiological thing that we could come up with where there isn't a sweet spot. And sometimes the range is very narrow, right? Like body pH, you can't be too
Mm-hmm.
crazy with it, right? But other
Yep.
things, there's quite a wide range that is acceptable. An example of that would be something like body fat levels, right?
Yep.
There's, so many people walking around with a huge range of body fat levels that are just like the sweet spot for them for function and performance and feeling good and whatever. Um, so really, we're just talking about ranges and sweet spots. And I think that's tricky for people who feel like there needs to be an answer when the answer is usually it depends.
Yeah.
And no one wants to hear that, but really there's a sweet spot for everything. And this actually kind of goes back to our discussion about values, which is the sweet spot. Now, sometimes there's just objective measures that are going to be better. Like pH is a great example. It doesn't matter how I feel about it, my body just likes to be a certain way. But there are other things that are more value driven, right? Like, and body fat level is another great example of that, right? Like, I just feel better within a certain zone of body fat. It's not an aesthetic thing, it's a felt sense. Like, I just like the way that my body feels when I maintain a certain body fat level. That is I don't even know if I call it a value. It's kind of like more even a felt sense than a value. That's a vibe. That's my vibe.
It's kind of like your homeostatic happy point.
That's right. Whereas for other people, like it could be something wildly different. Or, you could have a value of like when I eat, I prioritize I don't know, making a very elaborate meal over something simple. I love to cook and I love to try new recipes and really take the time to do something elaborate. That's for me more important. So I would rather only cook once a day so that I can spend the time to do it versus someone else who might be like, you know what, I just want to get the food in the food hole 5 times a day. I don't give
Yep.
a crap what it is. Like that's my value, right? So in working with your clients, like a super important conversation up front is like, what do you even value as a person? Because so much of the time as coaches, we're like, you should value what I value, or we don't
Hmm.
even have the conversation of like, is this even important to you in the least? Right? Like for example, when I was younger, I used to be like the barbell squat was my lift. I don't know why I like attached myself to it,
Mm.
but like it was such a point of pride for me. Now my body does not like this movement, and I've had to let it go. So in my, at 52, my body's like, no, just not, we're not doing this anymore. And I was like, okay. And so now I've had to come up with a new way of feeling good in my body and feeling strong when it comes to this kind of movement. And so these things are very dynamic through your life too. But if I have a coach that's like the barbell squat is, we have
The
to have it
king
in
of
your
all
program.
exercise.
Exactly. Right. And that might have been me 30 years ago or 20 years ago as well, right? So as a coach, you have to stop and kind of like hang back a little bit and be like, let me learn about you and let me be curious about you and let me be genuinely interested in what do you value and be willing to be pleasantly surprised by finding a worldview that might be quite different than mine is.
Yeah, and then it's okay just to whatever you like for reasons you may not even be able to explain.
Mm.
That's fine too. Like, I don't know why I have this weird obsession to pick up heavy, old school, stupid ass shaped dumbbells. I have no idea why. It's fun in a weird sort of way to
Yeah.
add one more rep to this kind of crazy thing, and that's fine. Like, I don't think anyone needs to get too far down and have this super logical explanation. Like you said, it's more of a sensation of I just like doing this thing. Cool. That's a
Right.
good enough reason, right? That's that's totally valid.
Yeah, to your point, I've recently gone back to a commercial gym, but it is a commercial gym that reminds me, it's not a chain, it reminds me of the old school bodybuilding gyms of the
Oh, I
80s
love those
and
gyms where you think
90s.
like you can get hepatitis just by walking in.
No, it's not that bad. It is clean.
Okay.
Um, but it's full of these like obscure machines. And
Oh,
so
those
every
are the
time I go,
best.
I gotta try a new machine. And like there's been times I've stood there with next to the machine, like Googling what
Yep.
the hell is this machine? Because I can't figure it out from the apparatus. And so I've recently found like the tibia, the hammer strength tibia machine.
Oh yeah.
I every time I go to this gym, I'm hitting that tibia. There was a guy the other day, he's like, I see you're getting a good shin pump. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
good
it,
tib
brother.
anterior workout.
But that is the vibe for me. I guess it's maybe because it was like that's how I got started in the mid 80s, was in that old school bodybuilding world. It just has this real emotional association for me. So yeah, that's another example. And so if I came to you as a coach and you're like, oh, you got to do, I don't know, like powerlifting or CrossFit, I'd be like, I'm vibing on the stripy Zubaz pants right
Yeah.
now. Like that's the world I'm in with the mullets and the and the
Yep.
Zubaz pants.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up, tell us more about the book. Who is it for? Where they can find it? All that kind of great stuff.
Oh, sorry, just one second. My sound just dropped out.
I can still hear you.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Sorry, my speaker just my AirPods just died. Sorry, can you just repeat what your last
Yeah, no
question?
worries. I said as we wrap up, tell us all about the book, who it's for, where you can find it, all the good stuff there.
Yeah,
Promote the
yeah.
hell out of it.
Okay, well, thanks, coach. Yeah, so I mean, the genesis of the book was for years. So I, have a background in counseling, and so for years I would be sitting in these counseling training sessions or courses, and I'd be like, God, these are such good tools and such good questions. But then I would go into coaching, and it seemed like coaches had no knowledge of these tools and skills, or they'd be afraid to use them. So for years I had wanted to write this book called Steal This Coaching.
Ooh, I
And
like the title.
yeah, and the idea is that as a coach, you have the benefit of being very multidisciplinary. You don't have to really subscribe to any one discipline. You can go into other fields and use their tools and use their systems for the benefit of your client, right? Because ultimately, that's what we're trying to do here is to help people. And so I'd been noodling on this book for quite a long time, and then Cognella reached out. Corey from Cognella reached out
Yep.
and was like,
Shout out to
"Hey,
Corey, good buddy.
yeah, shout out to
This is last
Corey."
weekend. Hey, Corey.
And was like, hey, listen, do you want to write a book? We have this book in mind. I was like, oh my God, like this is karmic from the universe. And so it turned into this hefty boy here. And basically the idea is, how do we take these tools and these skills from these other disciplines, bring them into nutrition counseling and coaching? And it could be counseling and coaching in other disciplines too. It could be health coaching, it could be physical coaching. Like a lot of these are what I call, like I said earlier, they're meta skills. So they're kind of big overarching skills that help you do other things, like asking good questions, like building a strong relationship with your client, which, as we know, is the prime determinant of change, right? Like the
Oh yeah.
biggest factor in change is you being able to vibe with your client and to have them feel safe and secure and supported. So, how do you learn? Because the field is changing, right? You gotta be a good learner. How do you make decisions? So, like all of these kinds of meta skills, and then there's specific counseling methods in there. So there's a whole unit on like what can you take from cognitive behavior therapy? What can you take from emotion focused therapy? What can you take from motivational interviewing? What can you take from solution focused therapy? And a lot of coaches may have one of these or be vaguely aware of them, but not all together. This is like the full gauntlet of counseling theories that you can just go, oh, here's a nugget. Oh, this is a good
Mm-hmm.
question, or this is a good technique. And we're not doing therapy. We're not talking about your shitty childhood or anything like that. It's just like we're just asking high impact, high leverage questions, or just using particular ways of nudging a conversation or nudging a client towards change that have been shown in other domains to be incredibly effective. The other thing I do in the book is talk about nutrition from So this book is not going to teach you what to eat. It's going to talk more about like, how do people come to food and eating? What are they bringing with them in their journey, and how do you help shape their choices? And so I look at everything from the most micro scale, like biochemistry. What happens when someone is malnourished? How does that affect their behavior? We know that certain nutrient deficiencies affect cognition, for example. How does that manifest in client behavior? So everything from like the biochemistry, like to do this thing with my hand requires biochemistry, right? What
Mm-hmm.
happens if the electrons that are driving, this motor pattern are missing or out of whack, right? Like, I don't know, like just basic stuff like that, all the way, through the body, through sensations, into emotions, thoughts and feelings, stories about the world, social relationships, and finally the environment. And one
Mm.
of the things I talk about is, so I live in BC and the west coast of Canada, and we had a huge flood here a few years ago that like took out a huge proportion of like the local farmland. And BC has this part of BC has a really temperate climate, so they can grow a lot of, fruits and vegetables and that kind of stuff. It just took it out. And so I would go into the grocery store and there'd be these empty shelves, like eggs and, beef would be missing and some of the fruits and vegetables. And it was like, oh my God, like climate change has now, I mean, climate change affects us all, but like
Yeah, yeah.
now I see climate change has directly affected my food choices. So that's the most macro level, right? The environment and environmental change globally. And so we have to sort of think about all of these factors when we work with clients. So the book is sort of like a walkthrough of all the stuff to think about, but taking it down to the simple tools, right? I'm making it sound quite complicated. Understanding that change is complex, but like, okay, so you're sitting in the office with your client, 3 o'clock on a Wednesday. They say this, you say what? What do you do? And so the book is full of stories and like all of the adventures with clients I've met through my whole life. And I mean, I've coached everyone from like teenagers to people in their 80s, everyone from Olympic athletes and special operators to just like regular schmoes. And so it's full of stories of, life, death, birth, crazy shit that happened, right? Like shenanigans, common questions. So it's really told through the lens of stories, but it's for coaches who are like, man, I would really like to either level up my skills or feel like I can really like tackle those areas that are kind of scary to me. Like, oh my God, my client just said this. Like, oh no, what do I do? This book is for that. The oh no, what do I do moment. This book is for that.
It's like the oh shit handle. Just pull.
The oh shit, the oh shit handle. Exactly. Like I tell this one story of a client that I met years ago. This was when I was still working with Precision Nutrition, and I think I was even coaching in their coaching program at the time. That's how I got started. And we did a consultation, and she was like, I have terminal cancer. And I was like, why are you enrolled in this program that's kind of more about fat loss? And she's like, well, I just want to look good. I'm like,
Ooh.
listen, with the kind of cancer you have, you're going to be losing weight shortly. I can assure you. Like she was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I have about like a year or so. And I was like this was just
Ooh.
the wildest conversation. And it turned out to be, but as I talk about in the book, it turned out to be a really affirming and wonderful conversation because we were able to say like, what do you want to do in your last year of life? And this is actually the client that got me inspired to do a death doula certification later
Mm.
on, to do this kind of end of life stuff. But like, what do you want with your last year? Who do you want to be? What do you like? What choices would you like to make? How can we get you off the diet culture roller coaster that you've been
Yeah.
on for 60 years of your life and get you living this last year of your life in a very affirming kind of way? So that was like one of the craziest situations early in my career that I was just like, I don't even know how to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow. That's great. And where can people find the book? Is it out now, I assume?
Yeah, it's out now. So if you're in the US, you can get it right from the publisher's website, and I'm happy to share a link. If
Yeah, we'll
you're
put a
outside
link down
the
below.
it's on Amazon. If you want to hook up, feel free to email me and say, well, I don't know how to find it in my country. We'll try to find some way to get it to you. I mean, there's also an ebook too, so you don't have to get this
Oh, cool.
donkey boy. Like an ebook is probably a better choice for a lot of people. But yeah, so it's available on the publisher's website, and I'm happy to share that with you. And I'm also thinking about putting together a course for it because it's one
Mm.
thing to get this, and then you're like, okay, great.
Oh boy.
Oh, what do I do? Just like, you just like open the first page and then slam it shut because you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, it's overwhelming. So I'm looking at developing a course and then potentially some kind of certification for this because I think it's so helpful to learn in a way that's like guided and helps you navigate. I mean, it's the same thing you do with your certification,
Yeah.
right? It's navigate people through that information. So that's a future project for me.
Oh, that's awesome. And then do you
Mhm.
have a website where people can find more information? Do you work with any clients still anymore, or are
Yeah,
you
I
pretty busy
do.
with everything else?
Yeah, yeah. I honestly, I love one-on-one client work. It's one of my favorite things. I know everyone's like, oh, one-on-one is like, you're trading time for money and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I
Yeah.
just love it. I
Yeah.
just love sitting down with one other person and like chilling out for an hour and really digging in with their stuff. So yeah, I still work with clients. So people can just go to KristaScott-Dixon.com. I have finally entered the 21st century and got my website with my name on it.
Ooh, wow, this is new.
I know. I'm such a boomer about this. I'd had this domain for literally like 15 years, and then every year around New Year's, my New Year's resolution was like, make my website this year, and I never did. So this year was the year, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I highly encourage people to check that out. And the other part I really love about all your work too is just, all the academic stuff and just all the just practical stuff because you could tell from day one you've always worked with clients. And again, that's always my bias too. I remember talking to a marketing buddy years ago, and he's like, "Why are you still working with clients? What are you doing, you crazy person? You've been doing this for how many years now? Do you still need to do this?" And I'm like, "Kind of, yeah, because I like it to a point. I don't want too many clients because I found that out in COVID and want to carve my right eyeball out with a dull spoon. But
Same.
I have learned so much from working with all sorts of clients, like stuff that I would have never had to learn otherwise. You know what I mean? Because then you're just like a glorified problem solver, and the problems you get cause you to do things that I would have not searched out on my own. So I think that's always something that I it is frustrating, it is hard about the process, but I know at the end of the day my skill set and everything else is going to be better for it. And then you see the resolution of, oh, that's so cool, we got this or that thing figured out, and to see their success as they do it is just it's just the coolest feeling ever.
I think so too. And I feel like people who treat client work as kind of like the shit sandwich, like I get it. We all have our things that we like, right? So that's totally fine. There's no judging there. But I feel like if you're in coaching and you treat actual coaching as a shit sandwich, then it's like,
Yeah, why are you in coaching?
yeah, like why are you coaching? You should at least kind of like people. I feel the same way about these coaches who are like, oh, you want to scale up and you want to automate
Mhm.
everything. And it's like, okay, yeah, I get we want to automate bullshit tasks, but like why am I automating my communication and my messaging and my interaction? Like literally I have one job as a coach and that's to be a human being. And so I've always like been so puzzled by people who are like, oh, you want to build an imaginary, let's be honest, an imaginary seven-figure coaching business through high ticket, blah, 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 automation. I'm like, this is all bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
and or like my obligation in this role is to be of service to other human beings. Like that is what I'm put here to do. So like, why am I creating this apparatus of automation? So that's my take on it personally. I just feel like if you're in a human profession, at some point, I mean, maybe you get to a certain point in your career when you're just like, fuck people. I'm just so
Yeah.
hoping. I, I totally understand that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems like it's so weird that the ascension model in coaching is to paradoxically not do coaching,
Yeah, that's it.
which is it's kind of like what? And I get it, like, that's why I have certifications and other stuff like that because it is more scalable. You can interact with more people on that way too, but a lot of that is still built off of all the problems you had to solve,
Mm,
with one-on-one. And I think that's, yeah. My last part is a lot of researchers, I think, give really good advice based on research, but my also pet peeve is you can tell right away the ones who have never trained a human soul in their entire life because their recommendations are valid based on research, Norwegian 4x4 model, but Tabatas will completely blow people up like on day one. And so
Yes.
and then everyone has, like we were talking about, this thing of, oh my God, so and so researcher said that this was optimal to do the 4x4, and I just really couldn't do it, and my output was so low. And then they feel like this horrible human because they couldn't live up to this thing that someone just read a study and told everyone to go do. So,
Yeah, yeah. I feel the same way when I read stuff, and this isn't wrong, but when I read stuff about like, oh, women at middle-aged women everyone should be sprinting, and I'm like, okay.
oof. Okay.
I have to have a warm-up before my warm-up for the warm-up.
Oh yeah.
This hamstring could never. It's only loosely attached with a few last strands of collagen right now.
Right.
Like this thing is hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, that's one of those things where on principle, I agree. In practice, oh man, the amount of work we need to do before you can sprint, like, because I've had some clients come to me with that goal, which is amazing. I love it. But like my rule number one is, for God's sakes, do not go out and go 100% and test your sprint today. Please do
Yes.
not do that.
Yes. Oh God. Yeah, we're gonna put you on the 5-day warm-up protocol before we're gonna let you even step on the track.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all your time. I really appreciate it. And I would highly encourage everyone to check out your book and all of your services. And yeah, thank you for just all the wonderful information God, I've been following you for over 20 plus years now, which is wild. So thank you for all that. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mike.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Really appreciate it. Huge thanks to Dr. Krista Scott-Dixon. Always enjoy our chats. So it was wonderful to chat with her again and to have her come on and share all of her knowledge. Make sure to check out her book, Applied Nutrition Coaching and Counseling Theory into Practice. You can find it on her website, KristaScottDixon.com, and we'll have another link where you can find it below also. Make sure to check out all the great stuff that she's got going on there. Always enjoy our chats, and like I said in the intro, really learn a ton of great stuff. Not only does she have really good knowledge, she works with actual humans to help them apply it. So there's a lot of people who may have good information, but coaching and working with people, I feel, is still super important because that is a skill set in and of itself. And not only does she do research, she actually works with real humans. That's also the main reason why I still coach a fair amount of people. So I learn a ton of stuff from them, and that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, making sure people can apply it, which is its own skill set. So check out her great stuff there. Wonderful book. If you want more stuff from me, go to my newsletter. Is the best place to get more information. MikeTNelson.com/newsletter. We have a link down below. You can get daily cool stuff in your inbox. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We really appreciate it. If you could do us a favor and give us the old likes and downloads and subscribe. And if you enjoyed this podcast, share it online. Make sure to tag myself and Krista so we can say thank you. Appreciate all of it. If you even have a few 20, 30 seconds, if you can leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, etc., that goes a long way. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We really, really appreciate it. Talk to all of you next week.
Something wrong with his hearing aid.
What's wrong?
I can't hear with it. Oh,
No wonder. It's too far away.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should not use the information on the podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease or prescribing any medication or other treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider before taking any medication or nutritional supplement, and with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this or any other podcast. Reliance on the podcast is solely at your own risk. Information provided on the podcast does not create a doctor-patient relationship between you and any of the health professionals affiliated with our podcast. Information and statements regarding dietary supplements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to therein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.